I had this video planned, and then I was reminded of it from a post talking about, not really having gaming consoles as a kid. So I definitely have nostalgia for it and everything, but in different ways. Most people I knew had, whatever was out at the time, and didn't really have computers with the internet. We were the opposite. My dad went to school for like computer IT stuff and everything, like a smart path, and like we had a nice computer and we had dial up and everything in like the mid 90s. He probably had stuff earlier than that too, but I was born 1990, so I don't know stuff from earlier. But yeah, so I played a lot of PC games, like old stuff that I'm very grateful to have played. So that's a big part of stuff. You know, first person shooters, and then there was a whole bunch of old DOS stuff like we had like it was like shareware or whatever, and then there's also other types of things, but it's like where they it would be like part one, like a demo of something, and you get to play it, and then if you want to later on, you can like order, call in and order the full thing. So I played a lot of stuff like that, just the first parts of things. There was like this disc that had a whole bunch of stuff with Crystal Caves, the old Duke Nukem 1 and 2, Commander Keen stuff. Zargon, I loved. That was such a we joke about how it looks like he's shooting the laser out of his dick, but that was a really fun game. Different things. But I had friends, like I had a next door neighbor. One of my earliest gaming memories was Yoshi's Island, and that looked so good. I actually have a tattoo planned for that. Even though I haven't like played it a ton, I'm not very good at it. Like that was an early, maybe the first game I ever played was Pole Position 2. I always thought we had a 2600, but it must have been a 5200, or we had one and then got another. But like for a long time, all we had was the computer with dial up and Atari stuff. And it's funny, like anyone born like 5 years later than I was, the internet would be much different when they are growing up and everything. Like it really is. I've made the joke, like I've said, that I used to be content running in a sprinkler as a kid. Like the yellow ones that go in circles. Like they're not just for plants. You can play in them. And now, I used to be content with that. And now it's like I get bothered whenever my phone goes slow and everything. Things change. And I did play a lot. I play outside a lot as a kid. Even my friend that had the Super Nintendo and then later on had the N64. His parents were very big on, hey, please go outside and do some stuff. So we'd go down. He had a lot more land than we did. He had like a nice, he was like out in a secluded area with like this big forest and stuff. And he had like, you know, we would go to the creek and different things, play with his dogs, whatever, like run around and everything. But yeah, so I had one friend that had like Genesis, and then later the PS1. I had one friend that had the Super Nintendo, and later on the N64. So I played a lot of like Mortal Kombat games and Sonic 2. Uh, really, the I don't remember a lot of early Super Nintendo stuff that came later, and I was like, holy shit, there's some amazing stuff. And I wouldn't really call myself like a gamer that much. While I've always been nostalgic for these things and I enjoy them, I don't spend that much time these days doing it. It's just more of like a piece of time that like really stuck with me. But there are certain games, nostalgia plays a big part in my life, and some of my favorite movies and games and everything happen to be ones that I grew up with. Now that can be different too, like Death Stranding came out later and I got my first tattoo of that. The concepts are just so fucking cool and mind blowing, and the story is very epic. And it's a lot like different RPGs and stuff with like like Hideo Kojima stuff's like movies in video games basically, like cutscenes. He like broke records with Metal Gear Solid 4, and I'm pretty sure there's like 15 to 20 hours of cutscenes in Death Stranding. So it's no surprise that he's hoping to also work on movies. That will be really cool if something happens with that. But yeah, different things. Yeah, the internet used to be so different. Like it would take even not just the internet, just the computers. Like you click on an image and it takes like a few minutes just to like to bring up one image. Like things And yeah, it was the phone line. You know, you can't pick up the phone when you're on the internet or it cuts it off. It went through the phone lines, different stuff. But what else? I feel like there was more I wanted to add to this. It's just funny how things change, though. You know, like we get used to the technology that's here and everything. And I still love to walk in the woods and everything, of course. Again, I'm not even really playing video games that much these days. Like, you know, I went through phases. Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls, Morrowind was my first, and it changed my life, and I was obsessed. I was like, this is so deep. There's so much to it. You know, collecting ingredients for potions and stuff, and reading books, and just like so much lore and everything. But Oblivion, that was definitely the game that I put the most hours into. I would just play that over and over. You know, actually, a lot of people have more of a list of games that they've played, and me, I've kind of just had a big list, but you know, there are some that really like. Some people have World of Warcraft and stuff like that. You know, there's just like a game for you that you got really pulled into, and it was your life for a while. I was obsessed with the Elder Scrolls, and I still am, and I will be getting, you know, the Xbox console when the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out. I hope nothing bad happens to me before then. Like, not that I'll, you know, what will I do about it, but I really got to play that and a lot of other things. But, you know, now I have the Super Nintendo and GameCube, and then I have PlayStation and oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I forgot about that. We just had Atari in the computer until probably 2000 or so when we got a PS1. You know, Crash Bandicoot games, some amazing 3D platformers. They were so good. Some of those levels are like they're so good. Siphon Filter, later on Metal Gear Solid, and of course that was a game changer too. Like the stealth action, combat, whatever. Like that sort of thing. Amazing. Again, story driven and everything. Those games are great. One, I actually have never, I've barely played any of Metal Gear Rising though. I know that's a very different thing. It's more like action and everything, but you can like tilt the blade and everything, different things. There have been a lot of things in video games, you know, stick out to me as a very important thing. But I really, yeah, I don't spend a ton of time on them anymore. I try to mix things up and like I've been really I do that's the thing. I watch a shit ton of, you know, this one streamer on Twitch and everything I watch on YouTube, his uploads. It's still a very comfortable thing for me to experience, you know. And I love the Twitch sort of thing with that person because it's like it's kind of like connection with a human. It's like if you want to be in the chat, you can chat to other people, you know, and meet people that way. I remember meeting somebody in a chat once that was like obsessed with Morrowind and autistic and everything, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, just small world stuff, like different, you know. But it's a cool thing to like sort of feel like you have friends in that way, and definitely online friends are very valid too. I mean, it's the same, you know. You don't. A lot of people end up meeting. They meet each other online, and then they meet up in real life, and they go out and do stuff and everything. It's perfectly valid. But yin and yang to technology, and just don't let it get out of hand. You don't want to, you know. For me, I don't have a video game addiction or anything like that, and I'm not super. It basically most things for me come out of anxiety, and a lot of people could be like, "Oh, you're in your comfort zone," but it's like, you know, I have a lot of willpower in certain ways. You know, I fight the urge to eat a lot of food that is animal based and everything. You know, I try to. There are plenty of things that I do that require stepping out of my comfort zone or like, you know, really digging in to think about and be smart about and really just try to speak about injustice and justice, different things, really stay focused on stuff. But I do very much have that side of anxiety where, you know, certain things, it's just, even with, like, certain things just aren't going to change. I've tried it, you know, I've tried so many times going out to eat in a restaurant with my family and stuff. Well, now it's like different. My dad's in another place and everything. different people and everything. But still, like back in the day, like I would get so, just with the autism, the roaring sound of all the people talking, it would always be so overwhelming to me. I always wondered why I was like the only one I knew in, you know, the cafeteria at school that would be like, dude, it's too loud. This is intense. It's funny, I have like willpower and I have courage in different ways, but sensory overload and sensitivity to sound and texture and different things, I can be over like, I can I would sacrifice my life to save different animals and stuff, but please don't fucking do the wrong sound around me or I'm going to be fucking freaking the hell out, It's funny, just different aspects to things and everything. But yeah, I want to get more into also, I got the talisman. I want to prepare for that's supposed to be a very good fantasy story and everything. Just yeah, I mean that's all opinion. I'm very much one of those people that when people are like, "Oh, this movie's bad or good," I'm like, that's not the way I word things. I say it's either for me, or it's not for me. Plenty of people love, B horror and stuff that's really cheesy and over the top and ridiculous, and that's valid. Some people like really artsy stuff that's like, they put a lot of stuff into and everything, and that's valid too. I like all sorts of stuff, but I never really say something is good or bad. So many people will say that about like musical artists too. Be like, oh, they're so bad, Nirvana and everything. Dude, I thought Nirvana was really enjoyable. So to each his own and everything. I saw that recently too, saying like it was like how terrible John Lennon was and everything. It's like, I mean, if that's your thing, but don't can you make better music and are you a better person and everything like you know different things. There's all sorts of stuff. I kind of am in that sort of category. If you're gonna say something like you'd better be able to do better than the person that you're saying is bad. Like a lot of people aren't even practicing art at all, and they love to just be critics of everything, and it's just interesting. It's like, but you can't do any better, so keep it to yourself. No, you're allowed to share your opinion of what you like and don't like. It's just I'll never understand the whole good and bad thing because it's all opinion, right? This is oh shit, this is a long, long video now. I went different places, but yeah. I am a very much a collector of different things. Video games is not really one of the big ones. I may even get an EverDrive for certain things later on to be able to play them, just to you put like it's kind of like you put a lot of money out there, but then you get a lot from it. But I don't have a computer. I haven't had a computer for a long time. I had a laptop a while back. So I just use my phone. I watch YouTube on the Xbox One S and do Spotify and stuff. I've got my CD collection. That's my main thing I collect is music, and then I'm gonna collect as much of the X Files stuff that I can for tapes, and then I think the next thing for VHS I'll get afterwards because that's another nostalgic thing. The Goosebumps tapes. A lot of people grew up with the books too. I think I may have read one or two, but that was more my brother. But I was like the series, so cheesy, but for a kid, they have some cool stuff, some weird stuff. It came from beneath the kitchen sink or whatever, like a sponge that comes alive or whatever. It's funny, different stuff. But yeah, things change, and I try to keep that balance too. I don't like it when I've seen stuff. Again, I went through that phase as a teenager, being like, "Oh, the TV is a terrible thing." It's like you just keep it under control. Nature and technology. There's yin and yang, and I think the technology that is connecting the world, kind of like Death Stranding, it can be an awesome thing to share opinions. I mean, to keep up with current events and everything, to stay, um, uh, I'm just gonna say up to date, to stay, up to date with stuff. I hope my necklace comes soon. I've got a cool necklace. I made a post about stuff recently. It should be here soon, I think. And then a whole bunch of X Files tapes and stuff. There's some physical stuff that I really enjoy, but anyway, love. I hope you have pleasant times.